Well, good morning from a satellite edition of the Your Illini Nation pregame show. I'm Courtney Layne Brewer here in our studio in Champaign, joined by Glenn Kinley, who is on the road in Raleigh-Durham as Illinois, the number 11 Illini, set to take on Duke. Glenn, how are the vibes there so far?
Courtney, we're doing all right. It's sunny, I can tell you that. Didn't bring the sunscreen this time. I've been getting pretty good about bringing the sunscreen.
That's
Didn't
not
do it
true.
this
I
time.
just
But
give you
beautiful day
sunscreen
for
when
it.
we work games together.
No, I took some on my trip to Denver last weekend, all by myself. I did it all by myself, but didn't use it. But no, it's a nice day for it. It's actually not terribly hot. I think we're gonna have a really nice day for it. The crowd is starting to trickle in. Some students over my shoulder here. The Duke students actually starting to slowly fill in, and pretty good day for it. So no complaints out here. Obviously, a big game, and a game that you kind of feel some memories to last year when Illinois played Kansas. You get a power conference opponent in non-conference play. I went on a radio show in St. Louis just the other day and was telling them it's actually funny because Illinois is on the road for this game, and you can make the argument this Duke team's better than that Kansas team, but yet Illinois fans are much more confident probably now than they were ahead of the Kansas game last year. I don't know how many Illinois fans thought they were going to win that game. And so very interesting to see how that confidence has grown from Illini fans. Already saw some orange and blue as I was walking in. I think there'll be plenty of that here today, but the Duke student section, I will tell you, the Illinois bench right over my shoulder, and then those students will be right behind the Illinois bench. So I'm sure they will try to make life hard on Illinois, especially when Luke Altmaier.
Well, I was going to ask how much orange and blue you saw on your way in, so I'm glad to hear that it is some. Glenn, what are some of the big things? It's a road game, it's a power game, but it is not a conference game. For somebody who hasn't done any research on the Blue Devils, what do they need to know before watching at 11?
Probably starts with Darren Mensah, right? The Tulane transfer was one of the bigger names, one of the biggest names in the transfer portal before he picked the Blue Devils, and he's good. You've only seen one game for him at Duke, so we're still trying to learn what he looks like here. I don't think either team showed much in week one. Illinois didn't show much. I'm not listing the Illini wide receiver depth chart based on strictly what we saw in week one, because I think they just played everybody, and I think Western Illinois didn't show a ton too, but I'm sure they watched lots of Tulane film to learn about Mensah. He's a dual threat guy. I don't know that he runs the ball a ton, but he can if you let him. And then the other thing that we talked about on our newscast with Duke is that Manny Diaz is known for his aggressive play calling. He was like that when he was the defensive coordinator at Penn State. He's gonna bring it. And the Illini O-line, but not just the O-line, the tight ends or the running backs who are on blocking assignments have to hold up those blocks, and Luke Altmaier's going to have to be really smart about knowing when he needs to flush the pocket, when he needs to step up in the pocket, when he can and cannot take a sack. I always think that's an underrated skill set, right, is knowing when, hey, I got to cut my losses and take a sack here, and also knowing when, hey, we're on the edge of field goal range, I cannot take a sack here. Sometimes you quarterbacks are the worst guys are guys that run around too much to try and avoid the sack, and they get a 20-yard sack instead of a 5-yard sack, but there's times where you can't have it. So they're going to bring the pressure. Brett Bielema talked about the fact that they will bring pressure from a number of places. When he says that they're going to blitz, it's not just, okay, they have a good D end, right? Like, they'll bring their safeties. They'll bring a linebacker blitz, and so Illinois has to be ready for that. I think it's an advanced scheme that you'll see from a defensive coach that Manny Diaz is. So I'm sure the Illini have been prepping for that, not just this last week, but probably a little bit throughout fall camp. I don't know when the first Duke prep began, but that's something that'll be a point of emphasis.
Illinois with a pretty nice 52-3 win last week in the opener. Glenn, I think there were a lot of things you and I both agreed on, takeaways from that. For me, it was some clarity in the wide receiver room. What were your big takeaways from that week one win over WIU?
Yeah, Hank Beatty looked terrific. That's like a key takeaway, right? He looked like an absolute stud. And I think we saw kind of what they had told us, that they have a number of wide receivers. I also think that there's a chance that this week could look completely different. I think Hank Beatty's going to get the ball thrown his way a lot. But I think we'll see more Colin Dixon, whether or not it's this week or next week or whenever it is. We're going to see a lot of him. He's going to have a 100-yard receiving game at some point, or maybe a few of them. So that wide receiver spot was a big one. I was interested at how many guys Illinois played. They had talked about this depth throughout fall camp, but you kind of, as a reporter, you're kind of like, I don't want to say write that off, but you kind of like, okay, yeah, they got depth. Like, every coach is going to say, we got a lot of good players, we got depth, and that's great. But Illinois played a lot of guys, even on like and it wasn't just when the game became a blowout that it's like, okay, let's play our backups and our subs. Even early in the game, Illinois was playing 3, 4, 5 tight ends and playing a lot of different guys on defense. We saw Daniel Brown out there a lot on defense. We saw, I mentioned the tight ends, Christian Abney, Davin Stoffel, in addition to Arkin Anderson and Cole Rusk. And so I'm interested to see what that looks like today. Was that a week 1 thing? Was that a let's play all these guys so that Duke doesn't know who to prepare for or who we're going to play? Or was that a, hey, we have all these guys that we think are good enough to play football. We're going to have those guys play for us a lot, and we're going to rotate guys in, and we're going to keep guys fresh. I think that's a valuable piece for, you talk about the depth. I mean, if you have the depth that they've been saying they do and that we think we saw in week 1, although it was Western Illinois, that keeps guys fresh in the fourth quarter. And so when Duke is bringing the house on a 3rd and long in the fourth quarter, your tight end who's out there hasn't played, however 80 snaps, right? And so now maybe he is a little bit more fresh and he has a little more energy and he does get you a big block. Or your running back, Caden Fagan, who's out there, maybe he hasn't taken 28 carries because him and Khalil and Caden have all split it. And so I think I'm really interested to see how many guys we see Illinois play, and then when push comes to shove, who's out there on the field, because we just kind of saw everybody last week, which was interesting, and maybe we'll see it again this week, but that's what
Len, I'm curious about your opinion. Before I hopped on with you, meteorologist Seth Bonoff and I were talking about the importance of this game from a momentum standpoint, and I am of the mindset that this is a really good baseline before you have to go play on the road in the Big Ten. If you get a win, you're set there, but if you get a loss, you can lose this fan base pretty easily. I'd love your opinion on this game from a momentum standpoint.
I think it's big for momentum. I think it's big for confidence. That Ohio State game and that USC game are still going to be sold-out crowds, even if they lose to Duke today. But maybe you had another sellout or two if you win this game, right? Like, I look at how quickly we saw people just get through the roof excited when they beat Kansas last year. And again, that was a home game, and Kansas didn't end up being a bowl team, but that was a ranked win, and that was just a big win for the fan base and for support and for people buying into this thing. I think this is a good enough team, and the momentum and excitement is high enough for this team that people will still be bought in. Like I said, we'll still have those sold-out crowds even if they were to drop this one. But Courtney, besides the momentum factor, you're talking about a team that is in the top 12, 11th ranked in the country right now. That's an AP poll, not a CFP ranking. We don't have those yet, but you're talking about a team that if the season ended today would certainly be, if the season ended after 1 week, they should do that actually, it would certainly be in the conversation for college football playoff. And you're talking about this being a huge game for that reason. I said that a couple days ago, is that you enter Big Ten play with a whole lot less leeway if you drop this game. If you drop this game and you still want to be in the playoff, you probably can lose to Ohio State, and then you have to win all the rest and hope that 10-2 gets you in. If you win this game, you go into conference play, I don't want to say with leeway, but with a little bit more room for error of, it's not, if we have one off week, we're toast.
I think I agree with you there. I think it echoes a little bit of what we said last year, where we had some games where if you win them, great. If you don't, brush it off and keep moving on. Except the stakes are a little higher this year. We can listen to the players say as much as they want, we don't look at rankings. We can listen to people say we don't look at rankings. But that is looming over everyone. The number 12 is key in college football right now, and it is on everyone's mind. Yeah. So I do agree with you there, but I do think a win today could be really exciting for this team. As our friend Robert Rosenthal told us last week, these home and homes, the road tests have plagued the Illini. But Brett Bielema, I did the math a few weeks ago, he's 10-10 on the road. Is there any concern in your opinion there?
I got to be careful here. I'm standing really close to the Duke student section, but I can tell you this, Courtney. And we'll see, right? Like we're still 76 minutes to kickoff. I don't think this will be the hardest environment Illinois has played in, and I'm not saying it won't be a good crowd. I'm not saying that it won't be a tough place to win. Or Duke's a good football team. That makes it hard enough, right? But I think Oregon was probably a little trickier. I think Penn State, the whiteout energy game was probably a little bit more difficult last year. And so I don't know. And Brett Bielema seems pretty confident in how they handle the road. In fact, I think he really likes how they do that. And what I mean by how they handle, I mean like their routine, the hotel, the travel, all of that stuff. He seems to like that, so he seems to think that wouldn't affect them. Obviously, noise is a factor, and just a field, and they're playing on grass today, and so the grass looks good. In fact, I wouldn't have probably known it was grass, but it's not turf, and so that's an adjustment for the Illini. So there's some uncomfortability, but back to your point, like you said, Courtney, and Luke Altmaier said this at Big Ten Media Days. Like, he said it straight up. He's like, we're at a point in college football where, it's kind of like if you're not in the playoff, who cares? And he wasn't saying that bowl wins aren't significant or that Illinois wasn't happy for that Cheez-It Citrus Bowl victory last year, but while both sides are true, these guys I don't think are refreshing the AP poll at noon every Monday and saying, where are we? How did this team slide up above us? Like, I don't think they care like that, but they absolutely care if they're in the playoff at the end of the year, and this is a big game as they look to take a step towards that.
Glenn, as you start to see people, have they opened up seating yet?
Yes. Students have been in here since we started the show, and now more fans are filing in behind me. I don't know if you can see them yet or not.
But you seen any orange and blue?
We got it's pretty empty right now, but let me see. I see one guy in an orange shirt, 2, and a cheerleader behind me.
So I'll take 3 in a road environment like this.
I think there'll be more than 3, but 3 right now. We got 74 minutes to kick off.
Glenn, other keys to this game as you start to look as we come up on an hour to kick?
Yeah, I think stopping Mensa's big. I think we're going to learn a lot about this D-line. And then you're without Jaheim Clark. And so that secondary, what does that look like? Where do, we've talked about the versatility of some of those defensive backs. So who do they move around? Can Caleb Patterson maybe have, I don't know if a bounce back's the right word, but a slightly better game than he had a week ago? Did we see Zanai Scott, and then special teams, Courtney. Both of these teams, and this would be a really difficult stat to find, but one I think we should look into. How many week 2 matchups did both teams return a punt for a touchdown in week 1? See if you can get Seth on that. It seems like he should be able to find that within just a couple minutes for us. But Duke and Illinois both returned punts for touchdowns in week 1. And so, special teams is a big part of the game, maybe bigger than some people realize. But do we see the leg of David Alano that has been talked about so much throughout fall camp? Or do we see more Hank Beatty dominance on punt return? Or who does Illinois have back there on kick return? And how many kicks do they return and stuff like that? And so I think special teams could be a factor. But ultimately, probably establishing the run for the Illini offense, getting that going and just having that momentum, and then opening up those opportunities for your new wide receivers, and then probably learning a lot about the D-line specifically would be things that I would be interested to see, and how do or can they contain Darian Mensah. And so that will be an interesting one. What do we got here? It's 10:54. We're with you for 5 or 6 more minutes here on the Your Illini Nation pregame show. I'm Glenn Kinley with Courtney Layne Brewer. She's in studio. I'm here in Durham as we get ready for Illinois' kick against Duke. The Illini looking to start 2-0.
I think this QB battle is, this is kind of a gimme, but I think this QB battle is very fascinating. You have 2 guys who had really proven seasons last year, one coming off of a transfer, the other one returning. Yeah. I think if you're a big quarterback head, this is a really exciting game to watch.
No, yeah, and it's probably 2 guys who have something to prove, right? I think Luke had a really good year last year, and you can be like, oh, he kind of proved himself last year. I agree with you. I think he absolutely did. But you could ask Luke, and he's smart enough to know that there's still people who aren't putting him in their top 3 or top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten. So he has something to prove in that regard of, hey, last year wasn't a fluke. I am that good. And then on the flip side, as some Illinois managers get booed here by the Duke student section, on the flip side, Mensah's kind of showing, hey, I can do it at the Power 4 level. I can, and when better for him to prove that than in a early game against a Big Ten opponent, right? And so probably both guys with something to prove. And just at the end of the day, like you said, Courtney, it sounds too simple to say it, but just 2 pretty dang good quarterbacks.
I'm interested. We talked about momentum a little bit earlier. This is a similar question, but I'm intrigued by how this falls in the schedule to be stuck between 2 non-power games. this power test. How do you think that works in the Illini's favor as they look down the schedule?
I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I would think it doesn't hurt, right? That you weren't prepping for Texas last week and you're not prepping for Ohio State next week. And so I would think there's some benefit to that you maybe could spend some extra time on Duke. Maybe last week you looked at Duke more than you usually would look at a team a week ahead. And maybe this week you didn't look at Western Michigan as much as you really did and you really locked in on Duke. I don't know that for a fact. That's just a guess. We know that the conference play gets going quickly and becomes a tough test in a hurry for the Illini. But it's an interesting spot on the schedule for sure. And it's also the week 2 road game, which is somewhat rare. And so something that could help Illinois when they go on the road early in conference play at Indiana. And maybe you say, okay, we got a road game under our belt. Our new guys, our transfers, our young guys, they've gone on the road with us. Maybe that's beneficial for the Illini. Of course, we'll have to wait and see. But we're starting to fill in, as you can see. I think we have, I don't know if it's families or alums or some Blue Devils.
Glenn, this is a bit arbitrary, but I was talking to Rob Rosenthal last week. I love a matchup like this that is so dominant in another sport. I love that we are seeing these two basketball powerhouses duke it out on the football field. I think that is so much fun. And as I told Robert on Sunday No Huddle, it's really good for both of those programs because people are going to see this and think, oh, those two schools are basketball schools. What can they do on the football field? So it's a good chance to show that you can be up there with the team that has dominated your campus for the last 50 years.
Yeah, Courtney, in fact, I was thinking on the way over to the stadium, I thought, we don't know exactly, Illinois fans are going to get mad at me. We don't know exactly what will happen today, but we know that it can't go worse than the last time that Illinois and Duke met in a...
Robert said that last week, too, so they got mad at him first.
There's a legitimate chance that Illinois football scores more points than Illinois basketball did in that game, but that's besides the point. But no, it is interesting. I think it feels like a marquee matchup. It was on the basketball court, but you got two schools who are kind of trying to prove, hey, we're not just a basketball school. Like, we can play football as well. And so I think it's interesting. And here come the Blue Devils on the field. You'll hear some cheers. The specialists, the kickers, the holders and stuff running out on the field. But I think it is interesting, and I think probably Illinois is just a step further along. I mean, Manny Diaz said that, like, in his press conference earlier this week. The Duke head coach, Manny Diaz, said Illinois is a good I forget the word he used, but a good example of what we want to become. And so I think Illinois may be a year or two further along in this process, but it's both schools are trying to say, hey, we have a football program too, and Illinois is there. I think people are aware of Illinois football, but to that point, this would be a really big win for Duke to say we're right there too, actually. And so certainly plenty of motivation, plenty to gain here for Duke. It's not just like, okay, we got a tough non-conference game, this stinks. Like, there's a lot to gain, and Duke is getting AP poll votes, and so win this game, the Blue Devils are probably ranked. I could be wrong. It all depends on who loses, but
I hadn't seen where Coach Diaz had said that. That's very complimentary of this program, something fans should not take lightly. Well, as we wrap this one up, a PSA to our folks who are going to be watching us tonight. No WCIA 3 news at 6, so we'll have a full wrap-up tonight at 10 on Channel 3. We'll have a recap from Glenn, full highlights, and comments from Brett Bielema, which we will also have right here after the game. We'll have his live post-game comments as Illinois looks to take on Duke. Glenn, any final thoughts?
Trying to pull up the availability report right now to see.
I took a look at it just a few minutes ago. Nothing that we didn't know.
Jaheim Clark out, Ben Clausen out, Aiden Knappich out again, and then Logan Farrell. So nothing crazy on that front. Wild predictions, or maybe not wild, but I think last year, Courtney, we did random predictions, which was like sometimes they were hot takes and sometimes they were the most boring takes you've ever heard. I think Davin Stoffel finds the end zone.
I like that. I like that choice. I'm gonna be honest. I don't yet. Full transparency. I'm normally asleep right now, but I'm up for the Illini, and I will be tuning into this game. I'll be tuning in no matter what.
I got a Celsius in this bag, so let's sign off, and I'm going to get my Celsius, get a couple 100 milligrams of caffeine in me, and I'll be ready to film the game when we get the ball
Absolutely.
kicked
Well,
off
folks,
here.
again, be sure to tune in tonight at 10 for the recap of this game. Glenn is in Durham as Illinois looks to take on Duke. At Glenn_Kinley on Twitter. Is that right? Crushed it.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will have all of that coverage. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll be right back here after the game with Brett Bielema's post-game comments. Big game for the Illini as they look to get a big win.